Now we're recording. Now it's official. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the September 8th meeting of the Portsmouth Energy Advisory Committee. And I'm John Tabor, the chair. I'll just make a few introductory remarks, and then we'll get to our agenda. First, since we last met, Becca O'Brien, who's just been a terrific committee member, is going through a change of jobs. She's going to become an EMT, and she's going through training, and so she's had to withdraw from this committee and the Sustainability Committee, which is too bad, because she really was a star for us. I also have received and forwarded to you correspondence from Lisa Sweet in Rye, and I'm hoping at the end of this agenda we could take up her request that we collaborate with Newcastle and Rye on a button-up presentation of how to make your home energy efficient, and so we'll talk about that. After the June event, I think our public awareness was pretty good, and summer came, everything slowed down. But in the meantime, we're now looking at the task of developing the energy aggregation plan, which will be our case to the city and the Public Utilities Commission that we should be able to do a community power aggregation. We're not alone in this. Our partners at the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire have a draft. Thank you, Henry, for providing us with that, tailored to our needs. But there are two sections that we, as an energy committee, claim as our own. The first is the goals section, and we had that discussion in July. Our goals for what we'll give the community through Portsmouth Community Power. And the second is a timeline attachment that we need to do later in the document. So after we met in July, I circulated some notes to you all, and I tried to pull together a draft goals section, and I thought we could just go through it. Peter, if we could put that up on the screen, so
If I do share screen, the right one.
that way anyone watching in the public can also see it. And I thought we'd just go through section by section and see if we need to amend, or if you think we've got a pretty good element to this aggregation plan as it stands. What you see at the top these are chapter headings in the overall aggregation plan. And then we have two chapter headings here: Portsmouth Policy Goals and Portsmouth Community Power Goals. So in the policy goals, there's two links to City of Portsmouth policies that come into play here, and the document tries to call those out. First, that energy policy in Portsmouth through the natural step framework adopted way back in, what was it, Peter, 2005, I think, 2007, has four principles, and one of those is to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. And then Councillor Denton in 2017 and his energy committee created a document on a renewable energy policy that was passed by the council that gave the city a goal to be net zero in carbon emissions, beginning with municipal consumption first and then going to community-wide consumption. And what was interesting is that 5 years ago, there were specific bullet points in that recommending forming a local utility and a community aggregation program. So here we are 5 years later, hopefully on the path to do that. Were there any additional elements or comments that we want to make, or changes we want to make on that particular part?
Well, I just, the last sentence there, it seems like they're quite different, forming a local utility, and I guess this is language and things that have already been adopted by the city, but the notion of forming a local utility and/or a community aggregation plan seem to be kind of apples and oranges to me. They're not-
Yeah,
They're,
we could perhaps drop the local utility, because that implies getting,
yeah,
stringing wires and
like we're a
doing
municipal
poles. and-
utility,
Yeah.
So that one just kind of popped out at me, that they were not really.
That's a
It was
good,
not either or.
that's a good catch.
And the word rapid gives me heartburn around rapid shift away from fossil fuel, because one, I don't think it's realistic, and language like, a thoughtful or steady move away from fossil fuel, I think maybe resonates with people who look at this more realistically.
Yeah.
Rapid, I think we all know we're not going to rapidly move away from fossil fuel.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the definition of rapid is, but, it's going to be with us for a while. And so I just, here and elsewhere in this document, we use the word rapidly getting away from fossil fuel, and I don't know, one, if that's realistic, and two, if that really resonates with.
You could say something like, as expeditiously as practicable.
Right.
And it's a mouthful, but it's accurate. We go as quickly as practicable, which means, there are things you have to do in order to make it happen. You can't just say, we all want to get away from it.
Yeah, but there may be elements of running our economy in the city that, from a risk standpoint, it makes sense for us to still have reliance on baseload fossil fuel.
Sure.
And at the same time, trying to encourage renewable. I don't, over the next decade plus, I don't think it's practical that we're gonna have an economy.
Yeah, I agree with
estimate
you.
that's gonna be reliable.
I don't
100%,
disagree with you.
yeah.
However, to play devil's advocate, this is a goal, so it's aspirational.
Yeah, right. But
What
we should
about
also
just
be
cutting
smart
out
about it, too.
a more rapid and just putting to enable a shift away from fossil fuels?
Yeah,
Yeah. Take out the dreamy rapid.
Yeah, I understand the aspirational side of it, but it's just,
Yeah. I'm thinking, I hear Bert Cohen in my ear. So.
He would not like that. Immediate, he'd like to change it. to
Immediate.
There's no more time.
Given aspirational, do you want to say something like deliberate shift or intentional shift or something? Or just drop it completely?
I mean, just take a peek at what California's going through this week.
yeah, I think enable a
What's
shift
happening out
away
there?
from fossil fuels is,
Yeah.
I think that's a good,
Simple.
reasonable, measured,
Right. Shorter's always,
yeah,
you get bonus for
you
that.
don't get hung for.
My heartburn.
Was
Okay,
there another
so,
rapid that you wanted me to get? Was there another word, rapid, in here? A second?
No,
rapid?
you guys.
We were
I
just
thought
gonna-
you said there was a second place.
There
it was in
is
here.
Oh, yeah,
lower
in the
on the page
goals,
one.
somewhere in the goals. I
Okay,
think
we'll
we
get
s-
to
We
it.
say it too there,
yeah,
Peter,
so we'll
yeah.
pick that up later, yeah.
Or it's actually above that,
Where is it?
right under the bolded caps lock Portsmouth policy goals, second line.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. And then down where it says more green power and more resilient power, we say enable a rapid shift away from fossil fuel.
So can we just take the rapid out? Does it still work?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
And even down below, take a more rapid out
Yeah.
to both enable a shift
Yeah.
away from, yeah.
I think we're good.
That's good.
I think that's good.
But back to the local utility, was there actually discussion around forming a local utility as part of one of these committees? Is that?
Were you on that committee?
Yeah, I was, yeah. renewable energy policy, they talked about possibility of a local utility, but
Okay.
I don't think we put a lot of meat on those bones, but
Okay.
it was an option for an approach to reduce, or change our energy makeup. And I think aggregation wasn't that far along either, so.
Right, right. So, based on our discussion back in July, here's our community power goals: competitive rates and expanded choices, more green power, more resilient power, regional collaboration, rate stability, fiscal stability, and financial reserves, enhanced customer focus, consumer protections and public advocacy, partnership with Eversource. We've seen that in the Exeter plan, we've seen that in some of the others. And then a little summation statement at the bottom. Aside from slowing down our rapid aspirations, were there thoughts that you guys had on these? Competitive rates and expanded choices is, a goal is that we don't launch unless we deliver lower rates than utility. Expanded choices, tiered options from cheapest to greenest. And the standard default package should be competitive in price with the utility, preferably with more green power in it. And then enable easy opt-out so customers have full choice.
The first sentence around not launching unless lower than the utility, that's like a near-term goal for launch.
Section is again?
At the top.
It's kind of just a stipulation for launching.
Mhm.
But I don't know if it's really a
Long term.
goal in terms of the program going forward. That we're only gonna have an aggregation plan if it's cheaper than default service. So I don't know if that belongs as a goal, per se.
Right.
It doesn't really stand the test of time because, the commitment going forward is we're gonna have more stable and competitive pricing
Right.
and hopefully cheaper, but the goal is not, I don't think we can make a commitment that our goal is to be lower than the utility.
So strike that first sentence, the program
Just-
should
just
not
take-
launch unless,
Take lower rates than the utility and put what you said, stable and competitive rates compared to the utility.
Okay, stable and competitive rates.
So the
I wouldn't
language,
even say compared to the utility, I'd just say stable and competitive rates.
Okay,
And then that way it's,
yep.
Right, then
Okay.
it's more
That's good.
long-term.
Yeah. Because that first sentence really, Henry, is a stipulation for going live, right? It's not
Right.
a,
in your plan, you have a sentence in the plan that states the program will only launch if it is able to initially offer residential default rates that are lower than or competitive with those offered by Eversource.
so it's already in there.
Yeah, it's in the plan, and
Yeah.
that's a criteria for launch, and then over time, if there are points in time when you have a higher rate than Eversource, that doesn't, stop the program.
Right.
So do we want to take out the launch piece then in the first part of that sentence and just make it more of a goal statement?
Should, not launch, just say
Program will
should
deliver.
deliver.
The program should deliver, will deliver?
Yeah, I guess it's, since their goals, we've been more definitive, right? Oh, no, we say should, and should's probably fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, should deliver stable and competitive rates. I think that's good. Okay with the rest?
Down on the partnership with Eversource, it was along the lines of Kevin's stipulation, where it says, should also work with Eversource, maybe take out on any and all, work with Eversource on ways to modernize the grid, but any and all seems
Yeah,
awfully,
broad, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. the green power, more resilient power was enable a shift away from fossil fuels, to both enable a shift away from fossil fuels and meet the demand from residents who want more renewable energy. And then we talk about 50% green power, 100% green power. And this was a strong element of our discussion last time. Advocate to, with CNH, to buy local wind, hydro, solar, to create those options. And I tried to get some of Ben's language in of, we didn't just want RECs, we wanted to actually buy the power where possible.
Do you want to add something about, like, to support the development of local power, support the development and buy local power?
Yeah. Well, we've got, should use all means to foster local renewable generation projects down below.
Down below.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we say above offerings, including ones with 50% green and 100%? We might just say including, for example, ones, because we don't necessarily know what the rate offerings are going to be.
That's a good change.
That,
Yeah.
the way it plays out, I mean, that's, but we're looking at
Yeah,
things like
that's a
in
good
that,
point.
in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to see what the actual competitive bidding
Right.
gets us. That's a realistic goal though, right, Henry? That
So-
we can actually foster some local generation?
In the
Yes.
more
Yeah.
green section, we say support, you should use all means. I mean, again, that's pretty extreme.
Okay.
Programs should use all means. Do we mean like,
Leverage opportunities.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Programs should leverage opportunities to foster.
years of corporate life.
Yes.
Leverage
Yes.
opportunities.
Yes, corporate speak. That's good. I thought I got rid of it after 4 years.
It just popped out there.
Back.
Yeah, should leverage opportunities to foster local renewable generation projects. Regional collaboration. And then rate.
One editor's note, sorry, I'm gonna try to keep quiet.
No, don't keep quiet.
Lowercase on collaboration to match the other sections. And then you'll also see the enhanced customer focus and the consumer protections. The first word
Yeah.
elsewhere is capitalized, the others aren't.
Let's go down style.
Where are we? Sorry.
regional collaboration? Second one
Just
should be just.
Lowercase and capital
lowercase
collaboration.
On community?
Collaboration.
Oh, the title, sorry.
Yeah.
They're the bolded.
Yeah, so the subheads would just capitalize the first word. Anybody got any changes on rate stability?
I don't know if it's getting into the weeds a little bit, but
Mhm.
where we say purchase of portfolio of short and long-term contracts, and maybe say, and hedging strategies, or is that getting a little too financial?
It's informative.
And the word
Well,
ensure, go ahead. sorry.
I guess my gut is like, why even bring any of this up?
Okay.
I mean, it just seems very much in the weeds
Okay.
in terms of, the general public. We're trying to convey what our goals are. I mean, rate stability, financial stability, financial reserves, that, it seems very deep in the program to be talking about from our goal. I mean, isn't this the goals and aspirations that we're kind of convey to the general public?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't people assume that we're trying to do this?
Well, the rate stability
Yeah.
is fine, as it,
Yeah, I mean, rate stability, yes, but then we get into the risk management and, portfolio management. It just seems like all of a sudden it's like, well,
I guess
seems
it's,
like an awful lot of detail for
If we just said something like adopt a
Portfolio.
power supply
Portfolio.
Or a power supply.
Procurement approach.
Yeah, that ensures reliable, stable rates.
Yeah,
And, you know, if you have to talk about financial reserves, including financial reserves to prevent rate shock,
Yeah.
but then you're getting into the weeds there.
Well,
which you
can't,
want.
can't you just cut out that enables purchase of a portfolio of long-term contracts? So, and just say, we'll adopt a risk management policy to ensure competitive rates as market prices fluctuate, as well as a plan to deposit a portion of revenues into a rate reserve fund?
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
Thank you.
So that enables a,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right there?
Yes.
Exactly.
good, I like that.
And I'm fine with the word, but it's another one of these ones that gives me a little bit of heartburn, saying ensuring competitive rates, but it's our goal, I guess.
Yeah, it's our goal.
Yeah.
And we're not even saying lower rates, so. And who can be against any of these customer focus areas?
Just maybe a little restructure on that first sentence.
Mhm.
So we say including the installation of smart meters, and that would come from the utility. But in control of when power is taken, seems like the parentheses, time varying rate structures would go after that. When we say when power is taken, we'd put parentheses, the time varying rate structures,
Okay,
or supplied to the grid.
right.
And maybe then put in parentheses after that via net metering programs.
Yeah, good. That's more clear.
How does that educate consumers, though? I mean,
Yeah.
that,
Well, I guess the point is, like, you educate consumers on that topic.
That there's an
right, that
opportunity.
you can install a smart meter and,
right, but it's saying we're gonna educate them regarding how to reduce energy costs.
Well, I think it's important goal. You're talking about,
Well, it just seems
Wouldn't that-
incongruous to the
Isn't the smart meter, don't you use that as a tool to reduce your energy cost?
yeah,
I don't really know what a smart
someday,
meter does.
not at the moment, really.
No?
Well, I don't think, we don't really have good, time of day
I
rates.
guess I see what you're saying. So once you have that smart meter, you can then determine when your peak energy use is, so you can reduce
Yeah.
Yeah.
demand at the peak times.
Well, you want to say, for example, so we're educating consumers regarding how to reduce energy costs. For example, installation of smart meters to control when power is taken
mhm.
via time
So
varying rate
instead of
structure.
installation, for example, or including, so for example
Yeah,
here?
it's-
For example.
Yeah, for example.
It's not, it's just, kind of a few.
Is it a colon, or is it, what is, energy costs, comma, for example? I'm terrible at grammar.
I like it.
It's the-
Comma. Colon? I guess we could do.
It's a different, I always think colons are like when you're
We can go to our
semicolon.
editor.
If you're
Okay.
gonna
Say
list
comma.
things, I think
It's a
you use a
comma?
colon.
I would say comma, yeah.
Okay. When do you
For
use a
example.
semicolon?
When you-
When you're gonna list things, I think.
Yeah.
Or when you're gonna use no and or but, right?
Very good.
Okay,
How's that?
for example, installation of
Stephanie,
smart
does that
meters.
pass the editor's test? Okay. Chime in if I'm missing something here, please.
I think it's important to keep that time varying rate structures as a goal, or in our goals, because like Clifton's really keen on the idea of battery storage and
Yeah.
taking power off the grid when
I
it's
think
cheap.
it's good to leave in there.
It's going to be a key advantage, especially with, I mean, ISO New England's worried about this winter and fossil fuel prices, and just the more and more we're able to control load will be a big factor in coming years.
Right. Right.
So will we be able to control load better because we have more connection with our users? Is that?
Yeah, having,
Sort of the-
having many customers who are all informed and able to have technology or rates or behavior changes to collectively lower your peak. Yeah.
Right, and in theory, we can take some of the revenue from the program and put it back into education, and maybe even, doesn't California do some actual assistance on purchases and things like that, on batteries and stuff like that?
There are programs that finance residential batteries and things of that nature, yeah.
Right.
Rebates and stuff. So I'm a little stuck on this, reduce fossil fuel consumption by supporting electrification of appliances and vehicles. Don't we predominantly depend on fossil fuels for
Not
our
necessarily,
electricity?
Peter. You could have solar on your roof and a battery, and you would use potentially less fossil fuel, but.
Right, but it's, I'm just.
I was reading an
Well,
article.
I'm
Isn't
parsing
it-
wor- I'm
We're talking
parsing words.
aspirational here, right? These
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
goals.
But isn't
Yeah, but it's, I don't know.
No way you get away
In my
from it.
brain, it's like, for some reason, pushing everybody towards electric.
I was reading an
is not
article
necessarily
this week
the
that
same
said,
as reducing fossil fuel use.
in California, when they just came out with their goals for
2035.
eliminating combustion engines,
Yeah.
that over that time frame, with the projected increase in renewables, they are going to still require the equivalent of 10 to 20 nuclear plants to supply the load that's necessary for that electrification. And, they have one nuclear plant right now, Diablo Canyon, and I don't know, it's like 900 megawatts. They said, depending on the growth of renewables, it's going to be anywhere between 10 and 20, the need for 10 and 20 nuclear plants to support
Right.
the electricity required for 100%
And then you have to have.
EV
you have to
in
have the
California.
grid to supply it.
the grid, yeah.
And the water to cool the things.
But you don't get innovation if you don't set goals like that. I think that's where
Right.
it's good to have those goals that push the envelope, because otherwise, the industry just said, you can never do it. Make it 2075.
Right.
Right, but I think there's a notion that EV, the electricity for EV kind of just drops out of the sky.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And I think the alternative, I think EV is just a transitional step. I'm not committed, I don't, I
To
think-
get to hydrogen or something,
I think
or?
hydrogen systems are more likely to take on. You still gotta generate the hydrogen, but I think there are systems that are coming out there, and they're coming out as commercial, not just prototype stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just, what you just said is, the grid effect alone, getting the power transmission alone is huge.
Well, I think we'll get away from that. We won't have to transmit as much because we'll have power plants everywhere, right? So the
A
transmission
lot
won't
more
be.
solar. If everybody has solar on the roof, that's still,
That's,
how does that factor into the 10?
Or you've got a
plants?
little hydrogen fuel cell in your basement.
I think everybody should ride their bicycles to work.
Yeah.
Well,
That'll
but
save-
there will be a lot
They're
more.
electric bicycles?
No,
A bicycle?
bicycle.
I understand the aspirational end of this statement. I'm just wondering if there's a way we could word it.
Which one are we
This-
on
The
now?
second bullet.
second
Reducing
one.
fossil fuel
I would maybe
consumption.
put that as the fourth bullet. I think the other two, the third and fourth are probably a little more.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's.
Do you want to say, and encourage or and support effective ways of expanding the grid? Something along that idea?
I think that's out of our scope. Don't you?
On that second bullet, if we wanted to stick with reduce fossil fuel consumption, I mean, energy efficiency is a much better immediate target than going
Electrification.
to electrification.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think you could say, reduce fossil fuel through energy efficiency, energy efficiency and promotion of, individual solar, alternative power sources.
Renewable energy.
Distributed
renewable,
power.
yeah.
Distributed
But,
power,
I
renewable
just,
energy.
Uh,
As the only
It's just-
approach to reduce fossil fuel, I agree,
And what
although,
appliances are not electric right now? I mean, I guess you're thinking about weed whackers and lawnmowers type things, or they're,
Well, I
And
heat
vehicles.
pumps would either be the big
Vehicles.
one, right? You get away from your
heat pumps.
Yeah.
gas
Yep.
heating system and put in a heat pump.
yeah.
Or heat pump dryer instead of a gas dryer.
Yeah.
What if we said reduce fossil fuel consumption by encouraging energy efficiency, and
Adoption of energy-efficient appliances and vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. That's narrowed a little bit, because the big potential is in making homes more
Home
efficient.
heating.
Yeah.
So practices and something around.
Which we're doing now to a degree. I think the goal is just to get a whole lot more aggressive around it, right?
Yeah.
Around pursuing energy efficiency measures.
Right.
Because they're, the measures have been there, and, some people are really good about taking advantage of them, others don't pay attention.
right.
So if we led this sentence more with less intent, instead of reducing fossil fuel, that we're going to, more aggressively pursue energy efficiency measures.
Yeah, and support residents so that, to pursue energy efficiency at their homes and something on that line.
Yeah.
Homes,
Yeah.
appliances, and vehicles.
Yeah, and then that would lead to reduction in fossil fuels.
Okay, support residents.
But how are we gonna support them? I mean,
We're going to go to
Through the CPC, NH
Okay.
grants and rebates and,
Through programs for energy efficiency.
Well, part of it's education, just make sure
Yeah, it's
people are
education,
aware of the
yeah.
programs that are available, and then with our leverage at the state level
well,
now.
we kind of say that in the first bullet, educate consumers regarding how to reduce energy.
yeah.
Support residents through programs, through energy efficiency programs, and
Shipyard,
What is it?
7 o'clock,
CPR.
right?
colors.
Yeah, I love
Evening
listening to
colors.
that.
What is that?
I'm amazed we can
Shipyard.
hear it. It's evening colors at the
It's amazing, you
shipyard.
can hear it. They must have changed their
Oh, yeah.
microphones, because
Yeah.
No, they
I mean,
put in
they're
a new system
speakers.
recently.
Past couple of weeks,
Yeah.
I lived right down that
You
way.
never
and
used to hear it. Yeah.
Much more the past couple of weeks, and it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Maybe we scratch that one and just add, educate customers regarding, how to reduce costs via energy efficiency, as well as other ones up there that we've already
Yeah.
listed.
incorporate it into the first bullet.
Maybe incorporate the
Yeah.
energy efficiency, more aggressive pursuit of energy efficiency into the first bullet.
I guess the only difference, the first one's focusing on costs, the second one is on fossil
Right.
fuel
Yeah.
consumption.
Well, we could support residents, what if we just say, to keep it simple, just say, one of our goals is to reduce fossil fuel consumption. Period.
how about we say,
That's,
reduce
the goal.
fossil fuel consumption by supporting residents through energy efficiency programs and encouragement of more efficient vehicles and appliances.
okay?
Does that land?
Yeah.
So
Wanna say
reduce
that
fossil
again?
fuels, so take the support residents and move it to the other side of reduce fossil fuel consumption.
Reduce fossil fuel consumption.
By supporting residents through energy efficiency programs.
This keyboard is tough.
It's also far away, I don't know.
And encouragement of more efficient electric vehicles and appliances. Got it. Local energy production and supported. Local businesses. Okay, any other changes on those? Consumer protection and public advocacy. That's pretty clear.
Are the contracts that we're referring to the supply contracts, or
Can we go back up?
Yeah.
It just bothers me that we say reduce fossil fuel consumption by supporting, and the next one, it's encourage local energy production and storage by supporting. And so I'm just wondering if we take out, if we go reduce fossil fuel consumption through energy efficiency programs and encouragement of more, you know,
Yeah,
rather than
shorter.
just
Yep.
take out by supporting residents.
Well, that also broadens it beyond just residents.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yep, good. Thank you, Alice. Any others?
So that, what are we saying, ensure
Yes.
contracts entered into?
Energy-
Oh, yeah.
Energy procurement contracts?
Is that, are we,
Well, there's all kinds of contracts we could
right,
have.
we have the third-party contracts we're entering into, right?
Right, we could have contracts for home efficiency, we could have,
So we probably should say third-party contracts or legal contracts or something? Just the word contracts.
Why don't it just say, like, ensures programs represent the interests of the customers of the city of Wayne? I mean, because you get, into- I mean, contracts,
Yeah.
you know, like, why would we, you know, I don't know, it just seems
yeah.
too granular. in
I
terms
think
of-
the intent was to say,
Public advocacy.
our goal is to not sign anything that's not in the best interests of the residents.
Yeah.
It's just a,
Yeah,
Right.
so I think the programs, just like Peter said,
okay.
ensure the programs entered into represent the interests.
Yeah,
Or
and then
just
it's
ensure
not,
the
then people are like,
programs-
what contract? What do you mean
Right,
contracts?
right.
I'm gonna have to enter another contract? I think it's just one, I can get out.
Okay, so what were you gonna say, Henry?
I was gonna say, you could even just have it read, ensure the programs represent,
Yeah.
strike entered into.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
And
short.
that means the community power programs, is that what we're saying?
Mhm.
What we say, programs?
Yeah.
Do we want to say ensure community power programs to make it more clear? Is that clear? Because that's what we're working on.
I mean, are there other programs that we could potentially be entering into in addition to the community power program? I mean, we could be doing power, you know.
Home
It could be a
efficient.
project, it could
yeah,
be a
could
renewable
specific
project.
Renewable project. It could
Ensure
be-
programs and projects?
It could be a incentive, you know, a rebate type thing, it could be.
Maybe we say programs and projects.
Yeah,
Because we could be
programs and
building a
projects.
local renewable project.
Yeah.
We'd want to make sure that that represents the interest of this.
Yeah, programs and projects, I like that. And we're gonna take out any and all ways to modernize the grid and just say, work on ways to modernize the grid.
Where was that?
And we're coming around the clubhouse turn to the summary at the bottom.
Not to parse words,
Mhm.
we were,
That's what we're doing.
like, there could be projects up in Lebanon that have no benefit to the city of Portsmouth.
Other than in the long run, we're all in the same climate situation.
So we are benefiting from that. Okay, I get it.
And also,
Well-
Portsmouth won't have to pay for that unless it chooses to receive power from it. Like Lebanon can't develop a project and then impose costs of that project onto Portsmouth without Portsmouth affirmatively signing onto that project contract.
Yeah, I understand the argument. And
Will we get to
I,
that? Yeah.
well, we don't need to get into my concern about the cost apportionment of administrative costs. So the benefit, how do you ensure that we're not paying additional monies to, but that's the minutia that's gonna get worked out later.
And
No
that's
question.
that's where the board, CPC/NH board has to wrestle with that.
Right.
I think that's the governance.
On the Eversource one, I would just get rid of and billing, just investor-owned transmission and delivery entity. Billing is just one,
Okay,
kind of one thing that they do. They-
transmission and delivery.
Transmission and delivery
Strike and billing.
and billing.
So
yeah.
add
Transmission and
just strike,
delivery entity.
And move and in.
move the and, got it, and get rid of delivery.
entity, you might want to say utility. Or keep delivery, transmission and delivery.
Oh, keep
Yeah,
delivery.
get rid of billing.
Just transmission and delivery,
What do I do? Transmission and delivery. Utility?
yeah, get rid of billing.
Okay. Next was a look at the aggregation plan template. You'll be relieved to know I don't think we should go through that line by line.
No, but actually, I have a question. On page 19, it says that 100% renewable will be above the basic utility rate, and I'm paying right now less because I'm using 100% renewable energy than I would be if I was going through the default utility. So I don't understand why on page 19 it says that it's going to be more expensive if you go 100% renewable.
You're with a competitive supplier right now?
I'm with North American Power.
So the table is illustrative. It says this table provides an illustration, examples of
Yeah, page 19.
product options. But,
I like the Roman numerals.
and perhaps it's even, I'm curious about your contract. Was it recent that you entered into that, or?
Yeah, I'm in the same situation.
No, I've been in this contract, I mean, it was renewed, but, yeah, I'm definitely,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm paying 15 cents.
Mhm. Markets are changing.
I'm paying like 10.5 or 11 cents. It's 100%
Yeah, and
renewable.
Peter said that he was paying less too, but my contract was renewed at a
How-
time
how
when
long you
things were
locked in
more
for?
expensive, I guess.
2
Pardon?
years.
Years, well, that's good.
Yeah, but here, this is what I mean, exceeds default utility rate. And I don't know that it should say that.
As an illustrative example of default service
On the
I
other
mean,
hand,
I think may exceed default utility rate, rather than it will exceed.
Since we have an example in front of us.
That, I wouldn't object to that.
Or would typically exceed default.
Typically exceeds,
Yeah.
may exceeds, whatever.
Could exceed.
But I don't know if that's true. I mean, like, if you look at it's natural gas that's causing everything to go through the roof. And I think the cost of renewables, and as more renewables come online, that is going to be less expensive. I mean, all the projections are there.
It's an interesting question, long-term, are we just now in a permanent era of high fossil fuel prices? I don't know.
Well, natural gas, at least for 5 years, is gonna be high in New England. They just don't have the capacity to get
Right.
it up here.
Right.
But so there are 3 of us on this committee that have rates with 100% renewable that are lower. So
Deep
that's
and
why I'm
green.
saying that it should be may exceed
Yeah.
default utility rate.
Why don't we just say may exceed?
May exceed?
Yes.
Is that editable, Henry, or is that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, I don't have track changes on this one.
I would turn it on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Any other? That's a good catch, Allison.
So Henry, do you just want to maybe speak for a minute about
Yeah, that'd be
kind of
cool.
the updates that we need to do to this, kind of beyond the template?
Sure, I could do that. I was also wondering, probably not this moment, but I could also do a little bit of an update on the coalition if that's helpful, maybe later if there's time.
Yeah, let's talk about the document
Yeah.
first.
So I think you've just done a big portion of that, which is page 17, your community power objectives.
Yeah.
So you've just done a lot of that work. And I have some minor updates for you, such as updating a graphic here or there that are dated.
I'm not looking at the right document.
And I guess there's a question on your utility data. I'm not sure where the city is at with receiving Eversource data.
I know we've requested it.
In John's email, there's a.
We requested it, Peter had requested it separately for other purposes. So it wasn't the one that came through
Through us.
the coalition's template. So, and you didn't get the data that was requested for Eversource, that Kate
Oh,
requested.
yep. We didn't get what?
So you guys had requested for other purposes originally, right?
We requested it for the greenhouse gas emissions
Yeah.
inventory.
And was
Yep.
that aggregate by rate class, or how did it come? What format did it come in?
It
It
was
was-
very
it
similar
was-
to what we've been getting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But there was some data that was not provided.
Yeah, they didn't break down the different sectors that we wanted.
No.
We just wanted the data for residential, commercial, and industrial. And I think they combined commercial and industrial. I
Gotcha.
think that was our issue.
And Kate was gonna follow up with them, right?
And she did, but we haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
And there's no hard and fast, it needs to be a certain way for this plan. So some of the plans have it, utilities are doing it differently, and some plans have it differently. So however they give it to
But
you is.
Eversource provided it differently to Dover than they did to us, unless it was
The
Eversource.
Dover one
wasn't
was, that I gave you guys was as a result of the request coming from the Community Power
it? Yeah.
letter, the template.
Mhm.
And so it was, what you received was similar to Dover, other than there were some things that Dover received that you didn't get.
Right.
So I think we're just
Additional
missing,
breakouts.
we're missing some data.
And they're pending responding to a second request?
Yeah, Kate was following up with them.
Gotcha. So
So-
when that comes in, I'm also available to work with whoever, I can take the data, put it into the plan, or work with whoever on the committee
Okay.
on that as well.
Great.
Yeah, but what we got was consistent with the other communities, but it just was missing some information.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's, I mean, there's the goals, there's the data, and it sounds like that's in motion. And those are the two main customized pieces. There's some orange text throughout the plan, but I don't know that any of that is, you'll have to put when your public hearings are.
Right.
Um,
That's the timeline piece.
Yeah, there's an attachment, 7 and, I guess attachments 7 and 8, which are your public planning process, where you'll just want to sort of document this committee's process. Say this committee was established at this time, it met regularly over these months, we hosted 2 public hearings on these dates, and we brought the plan to the city council for approval. So that's attachment 7. And then you've already done the work of attachment 8, which is identify existing city policy excerpts, which we discussed earlier.
I have a
And
question.
votes, I assume? Excerpts and votes,
Yeah, any sort of record of city
city council votes.
policy or votes on, yeah, like establishing committees, establishing this committee, approving various resolutions.
Yeah, so we don't have to do that tonight, but we know that's a deliverable. I had a question, Henry, about the city council may now submit this plan for consideration by legislative body.
Yes, that is,
That,
we can just strike that because that is appropriate for select boards submitting to
Right.
their town meetings, but
Council
it
is
doesn't
our-
apply.
yeah,
Exactly.
our-
So that whole sentence, I think, can go.
Is that in here? Or is that in the attachment? Do I have that in here?
you have that on page 5,
Okay, I'll change that.
under approval process for Portsmouth Community Power. So we would just strike that sentence, and adoption of this plan by the city council by a majority approval of those present and voting establishes Portsmouth Community Power.
Sorry, I don't know what part of the page. Oh, approval process, okay, getting there.
Right, so the
Third
city council
paragraph.
may now,
Yep,
that whole sentence can go. Up to legislative body, it's just the first line. It's a short sentence.
The other
No, the
legislative
first, no, no,
no.
Peter, just the first
The
line.
first legislative body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Now I see. I'm not looking at the whole thing.
Yep, that's it.
Got it.
And we can put city council in there instead of legislative body. Okay.
And I'm not sure, that's really the bulk of it. I'm just kind of scrolling, looking for orange text, but there is some orange text, for example, on page 21, where it's not likely to change, but it has language like the city council will oversee the program and has overall governance authority. You know, you may want to, some communities are saying the city council will oversee the program, comma, with input and guidance from the committee, things like that.
Right. And you guys all have the hard copy.
Yes.
Yep.
Were there any changes to this as a result of the process Lebanon went through? For those of you who don't know, Lebanon just got their
Right.
plan approved by the PUC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was why it was updated and received a second version.
Yep, so no updates since that, it's just good news, full steam ahead. These attachments that we've created because the PUC requested additional detail worked, and they're in your plan, so we're good to go.
So the PUC didn't have any issues, they just wanted more detail?
They just wanted more detail on, and it was kind of a smokescreen, it was like, we can't approve this plan because the rules aren't ready yet. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna just flag a couple of items we'd like more detail on to sort of cover ourselves. So we did that, and it was how will you contract for a load-serving entity services, and what's your customer data protection plan, which are fairly boilerplate, standard industry stuff.
So you've got that in this version?
That's in this document, yes.
Okay, super.
And you'll probably edit this more, but we're not the electric aggregation committee, right? That's supposed to be us. We'd be energy advisory,
Right.
right?
Where is that?
And I think it shows up a few places, right
does.
below there.
I
right in
was
that middle
wondering if we
paragraph.
changed our name.
I think it's just, must have just picked it up from another,
Yeah.
see at the
If
end of
it's-
that
if it's-
paragraph right there, yeah.
I mean, if it's listed all over the place, I mean, is it more than just one area?
Yeah, you could just search and
Yeah.
replace it then.
Yeah.
Either that or you just define it, you know, the committee is this.
Right.
Oh,
And
Where's
just,
search and replace?
Depends on how easy it is to search and destroy.
There we go.
replace. We're shifting into military metaphors. This is, you know, I was talking to Lisa Sweet saying, how did you get a committee to write a 69-page document? And she said, oh no, it's pretty well written for you, and aside from the areas that we have to customize.
Very good.
Sam and Golding did it.
Yeah. If we're good on that, we can just turn to timeline. And you know, I think the big questions are, by statute, we need to do 2 hearings. And we have talked about doing a community-wide survey so that we can get feedback on the tiers of service. So Kevin, in your schedule, did you have, let's see,
Well, the schedule in general, I think, probably needs to get revved a little bit, because we're
we
not,
slipped a
we're
little.
not really on that schedule. It's not an issue,
No,
but like in September, we said complete the rough draft in September. you know, that probably slip out and to say we want to have that, our first rough draft completed by, is it still September, or you want to say October?
Well, we'll meet again for our meeting in October.
Yeah.
I would think.
So there's- probably just need to, I don't know if we want to take a second and just step through the things that
Yep.
we had on the plan here.
Sure. You want to take it away?
Sure, I haven't looked at this in a bit, but,
And this is in your packet too.
yeah.
Aren't we sort of completing the rough draft now? Didn't we just sort of do that? I mean, you know, yeah,
Getting
we have to
there.
replace
Yeah.
the orange.
Yeah, we need to
type,
fill out
but-
our orange section,
Yeah.
yeah. But even if, this is just kind of a bullet list of things that we put together.
Mhm.
But even if we backed up into like July, we had some things, maybe we just step through these lines. Request city council approval to begin drafting, that was done, right?
Yeah, we got the vote for that.
Initiate discussion regarding community goals, we started at that.
Yeah, we did that.
Establish, and I had put something about subcommittees to working on this plan and community engagement. You know, I don't know if we need to do that or not.
Well, I think we'll come back to that, yeah.
Okay. Initiate steps to draft the EAP, we started that. So we didn't really have a July community engagement channel,
Mm-hmm.
but, you know, that July's gone. So this one probably is something we want to do in the near term. We said we were going to establish our August through December
Right,
community engagement channels and schedule.
right.
So that's probably a to-do there, you know, that we want to figure out what are we going to do
Right,
over the coming months.
yeah.
And just,
Well, I would think that opportunity with Rye and Newcastle
Exactly.
would be,
Be a September one or
Right.
October, yeah.
yeah.
and on that point, the CPC&H Risk Management Committee, which Kevin is on, recently made a recommendation on a partnership with Clean Energy New Hampshire, and that would add capacity if that comes through in terms of working with each committee like you all to sort of develop some of those community engagement strategies and just
Mhm.
provide a little support on that as well.
Great.
Yeah. And we did have one that went in the water bill across the city. I don't know if
Right.
you were familiar with that.
Yeah, I was, that's great.
That was
Yeah.
Yeah, got some good turnout too.
That request city's aggregate load from Eversource, so that is kind of in process.
Mm-hmm.
PUC adopts administrative rules, so that's really now down. That's fine, gets finalized next week, I think, right?
Yeah, it should get finalized on Friday next
So I
week.
could tweak that. So then in August, we said we're continuing to draft process. So August, we didn't meet. Finalize community goals and policies, we're doing that right now. And then just had one, you know, what was our community engagement channel for August? We didn't have one.
Right.
Obtain electric load from Eversource, we got an initial cut of that.
Access, yeah.
City council update and adopt the joint powers amendment, so you did do
We
that.
got to vote on that.
Yeah.
I just did them the same night.
Yeah, so,
Wrong document. What document is
and then in
that?
September, we're saying complete the
Oh, he's
EAP
got
rough
it.
draft. So,
Okay.
you want to move that to an October milestone?
Yeah.
Well, you have finalize it in October. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, we could leave it.
We have a
as-
rough draft, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. The CPC&H board approves, so this is outside of us, we're just monitoring it. CPC&H board approves the service agreements with vendors. That's on
Close.
schedule.
Yeah.
It might be in October, but I don't think we're gonna have that for this board meeting in September. We're negotiating.
We're
agreements.
negotiating, right, Beth,
We're
like-
not approving the contracts.
We're in contract negotiations, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that has to move. Our September community engagement channel,
Right.
I don't know,
We
we'll
need to work on that.
need to work on that. So then in October, we're saying finalize the EAP draft, so we can keep that.
Mm-hmm.
Technical review of the draft by CPC&H, that would be you, I assume, right?
Mhm.
To do that for us in October.
Yeah, so whenever you're done with the version with the red line and the changes, send it back to CPC&H and me.
Okay.
Okay.
City council gets an update
Yep.
in October,
And I can put the document in the packet.
okay? And then we'll have a channel for October, that could be the event, the Newcastle Rye
Mhm.
energy efficiency event. And then we were targeting our first public hearing for November and the second one in December.
That's possible.
Yeah, so the rest of the schedule here seems to stay
I mean,
pretty much.
I think the question, Ben's not with us tonight, but he did write me and share his thoughts that he'd actually rather have more public participation and postpone the hearings and the final votes if we thought we could get more robust public engagement,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, because we don't really have a burning reason to hold those hearings in November and
fall.
December.
Yeah.
We can continue with more robust communications and that they could kind of move out.
So the only thought I have is oftentimes you don't get public involvement until you're ready to like hit the road running. You know, you're actually implementing something, and then all of a sudden everybody's really concerned. So if there was some way to, maybe a first hearing would be that, and then don't have the hearings back to back.
Yeah.
You know, give yourself, because that, you know, if people think it's, oh, this is actually happening,
If it's a hearing, yeah.
you know, you'll start to get people engaged, and
How about this? How about we do a first hearing, then we do a survey?
yeah.
And the survey is broad-based. That, all of a sudden, everybody's aware, and the survey instrument says, public hearing on this coming up, and that drives attendance.
Yeah.
And then maybe even another round of public education before we have hearing two.
Right,
You know,
that's
the-
that survey, and that, you know, that'd be part of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You can always leave the the hearing open, that's always a favorite. The never-ending,
And messaging in December is kind of a lost cause.
Yeah.
Right.
and then you get people saying, well, you tried to slip it through, you did it.
Right.
They're gonna say.
We'll do it in August and December, that's all right.
But the second public hearing probably should be more after the first of the year, the final,
Yeah,
right?
Why not?
So we're moving that out.
and then after the second hearing, we go to the council, presumably. And after the council, we go to the PUC.
Yeah, so after the second hearing, you know, whatever feedback that we need to dial back into the plan, we do, but that's a requirement.
Yeah, and I think there'd be a legal question. Could we vote yes at the council? And does a simple vote empower the city manager? Is that all we need, or do we need an ordinance? I don't think we need an ordinance. But I'll check on that.
There's also a nuance in terms of the PUC review where you can submit it to the PUC before your city council actually adopts it.
That's a good suggestion.
That's a time saver.
It's a
Yeah.
time saver. So as soon as you know it's the final version and you've got your council vote coming up, go ahead and submit it to the Public Utility Commission. And then if your council approves it, you're already, a week or two into the clock, the 60-day clock.
Right.
Right, so get council blessing to submit the draft,
Right.
get the comments from PUC, get it finalized, and then bring the final document to council for approval. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying parallel, so I'm not saying you wait for city council to submit to PUC or wait for PUC to submit to council. I'd say once you've got the draft that you think is the final draft, send it to the Public Utility Commission, send it to your council. You're not waiting for one, or you're sort of
Right.
doing your
Whoever-
approval simultaneously.
Whoever goes first.
Yeah,
Right.
typically, the council would vote to say, go ahead and submit a draft. You know, or there'd be some public dialogue to say that
Right.
some committee's submitting something.
Because we're not going to be on a calendar that requires, urgency.
We don't have a deadline, yeah.
So, we don't need to worry about so much that we're burning up weeks. But,
No, there are timelines which are important to folks that,
Yeah.
so it's not that you're not gonna purchase, we're not gonna have the ability to purchase the power, but there are steps that need to be taken in a timely manner, to show progress and to be able
Well,
to
and,
monitor.
and
Yeah.
politically, a political reality is that you want to get this done early in '23 so that it's done before the election in November.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
In a oblique manner.
So that,
yeah,
you
no, and
know-
I'm not even saying burn up months, I'm just saying there isn't
Right.
the,
Well, we want to
for the
get.
wave one
Yeah.
gang, time is of the essence, where they're just trying to save days and weeks, but we're kind of in a little different mode, I think.
But the counselor's point is well taken. It could become a political issue.
All right.
That then would
It gets
derail,
closer.
that could derail it for,
I hear you.
you know, a year or two.
I hear you.
And if it's as good as we think it is, we want to get the benefits
Yeah,
in the, spring and summer.
Yep.
And I think there's sort of two launch windows with Eversource's procurement clock, where there's the April, May, and then I think it's September, October, I forget.
yeah.
But if you're not in either of those, or I forget exactly the way it's lined up, but there are certain months of the year where you can't launch because you're in the very beginning of Eversource's procurement.
Yeah, and we're targeting the fall launch, but to have everything buttoned up in the first part of the year.
So a year from now, basically.
What would it take to get it spring?
Well, everything would be enabled and ready to go. It would have been secured. You just wouldn't be starting the procurement, power procurement, correct? I mean, you'd have to get everything blessed from the PUC.
And your city council approval by
CPCNH.
eight-
February, probably.
March, end of March.
And then good market conditions.
I think it's a risky proposition to be in the first wave.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not advocating for that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the.
But the spring is the first wave.
Oh, I thought the first wave was this fall.
No.
No,
April, May, next year's first wave.
yeah. I think you get everything buttoned up, approved through the council, PUC, everything's ready to go, and then we're ready to, because then there's also a time clock that leads up to through the whole notification process of customers,
Mhm.
to the opt-out process, et cetera, has to play out. So I think the earliest window we've been contemplating was the
fall.
the fall of 2023.
Right, so in order to get that the opt-out process, all that stuff, everything has to be in place, all the approvals, so the program's in place and approved. Council's voted on it, locked it in, and then it's just a matter of, we aren't locking into the power purchase until that fall, '23, but all the due diligence and all the
Right.
enabling work is done.
Yeah. On the back side of this are the variety of steps that take place during the go-live window.
So Henry, is there any chance, once the first wave happens and you've got contracts, that towns and cities could be added in?
Yes, and I pulled out my little calendar
To the
here,
first
but, so it sounds like.
Well, not even part of a wave, just,
In midstream.
Yeah, it's rolling, but it's based on the utilities, advanced notification. Let's see, so,
Yeah, you're adding load to the procurement, so if you.
Right.
so
You
I,
need to know what they're buying. You
Right.
know, and sometimes contracts have you can't add without getting penalized, or you can't detract.
right, but what it looks like is, say you were approved somewhere in quarter 1, and then PUC approval somewhere in quarter 2, then the data can come in, and the procurement planning can unfold over May, June, July, and then August and September is that second window in the Eversource procurement. So August, September of next year could be
that's what we
good,
should, that's
if
what
the
should-
market is right.
We should
and-
aim for that.
Yeah.
it seems to me.
Because the other thing too is, we're getting aggregate load data from Eversource now. But once our plan is approved by the PUC, then we go back to Eversource and we get customer level data. You know, very granular data that is necessary, one, for doing the whole enrollment process. But that data then gets turned over to CPCNH and the portfolio manager to really know what our load requirements are. Because right now, they're using more macro, just broken out by rate class. But we can't go to Eversource and say, give us our customer-specific load data until our plan is approved. And Eversource has a window where they have to turn that around.
It's another 30-plus
30
days.
days.
Yeah. And I just need to correct a statement I just made. So the second sort of Eversource launch window is October, November, and your notifications would be going out in August, September
Yeah,
for
starts
that.
45 days prior to that.
Right.
So the whole process for launch would start in the late summer.
Right.
Notifications, meaning when we write the letter saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
This is what's gonna happen and you can opt out.
right.
yeah.
Sort of
And Calpine would be doing that.
broad brush market perspective is going into the winter may not necessarily be an advantageous time
Grab me
to go
that
to
one.
market.
That's
There's
right,
no
I
hard and
got it.
fast rules, but
Thanks.
it's possible that the rates aren't as favorable in October and November, which could actually push you out until 2024 to commence the program.
And then what's
can't-
that gonna
you
do
can't-
with the new city council? I mean,
Then
once
everything's
everything's
approved.
approved, then we're all set, so we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it. Okay.
They are, so the approval of the plan isn't the final, the final thing is after the plan, then there'll be the cost sharing agreement, risk management policy, reserves policies, and those the council will have to approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's after the notification letters go.
No, that's before the notification.
So that'd be, which is still fine, because that should be in the late spring, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a boatload of stuff that's associated with approving the plan.
Comes up to the council.
And then once the plan is approved, getting data from Eversource, and then there's a fairly substantial window that leads up to launch. But that activity would start 45 days out from, say, October 1st.
Mhm.
So it would be like middle of August, the window. And on the last page here of this plan is kind of the bulleted list of the, kind of the granular steps that take place during that window.
So maybe Kevin, for the October meeting, we could revise this
Yeah, sure, I'll do it right away.
to, yeah, or just send it to us,
Yeah.
aiming for that August notification, August, September notification. Thank you, Peter.
Good night, everybody, good to
Thanks,
see you.
Peter. Take care, bud.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
And I think, to Stephanie's point, maybe we have the public hearings either November, January, or both in January. I don't think you want to do December.
I think November, survey, January would be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think so, too. That feels about right. So we'll pencil that in.
And on the hearing piece, I can provide a slide deck template that takes your electrification plan, puts it into slide forms, a couple of different sections.
Great.
So I can send that along.
Okay. Super. All right, so we'll revise this. Community engagement's a big topic, and it's getting late. I could convene a working group on that. Anybody like to join me on that?
This is to do what? To just generally outline different.
Yeah.
Well, Becca sent a bunch of good suggestions in her resignation email.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think those are all good, yeah. It's just a matter of doing
If it
those
would
month
help,
by month.
I can draft a communications plan
That'd be great.
based on the channels that we use all the time, and then we can finesse it.
That'd be great.
I'd be
maybe-
pleased to be included in this as well.
Okay.
So maybe if I start with the City of Portsmouth communications tools and a plan based on this timeline, and share it with you, so you can supplement with resources you have, then share it with the committee, or with you, John, and you can share it with the committee.
Great.
Or we could gather, I could say, who's available to review this
Right.
engagement plan, and we'll just have a working meeting.
Okay. That'd be great.
Because I don't want to take that on as a date. Last thing is the letter from Lisa Sweet. How do you all feel about that?
I think it's a great idea, and it could be one of our community engagement pieces, and we talked about, providing information on energy efficiency and,
And the timing's perfect, going
Yeah.
into
Good.
Yeah,
That's the
I like it too.
Let's do it. Do we need council approval for that, do you think, Peter? We just do that through staff?
To do a,
The
To do a
button-up
public meeting?
Yeah.
I don't think so. We don't get public, I don't think we get council approval for other public engagement. No,
we can just set it
No.
up at the library,
Yep.
Levinson Room
Yeah.
or something.
I think that's
Well,
fine.
they're suggesting at the Rye
Well,
Library.
if we wanted to do it, they said they'd do it here, and if we don't, then we do it in Rye.
Yeah, we talked about the Levinson room.
So checking on the Levinson Room is a trick when it fits, because they're pretty busy
Um,
usually. Are they
Peter-
doing big public meetings yet?
Yes. Does either the ZBA on the 18th or Planning Board on the 20th conflict potentially with this event? Because if so, we should pick the 17th, which is a Monday, and there's not a council meeting that night.
I don't think that really conflicts. I mean, gotta continue.
Okay.
If those are the dates you want to do, yeah.
Which were those dates again?
So the 18th is their first preference, which
Right.
happens to be ZBA. 20th is also a planning board, but if the 18th works, you don't think it's a problem?
What would the time commitment be?
6:30, yeah, she suggests.
Yeah,
Hmm?
6:30 is a good
6:30.
time.
6:30 to 7:30 or 8:30?
Just an hour, I think.
Just an hour? Yeah, they could even make it to their meeting if someone wanted to go to both.
And it didn't seem like it was a heavy lift. It's more or less run by Eversource, I think, right?
Yeah.
The meeting.
Looks like.
Looked like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the other date? 18th and the,
18th, 20th, 17th, or November 3rd.
I think it's really going to depend on when that room is available,
Yeah.
too.
yeah,
I can check that if you want.
great.
Great.
So you're going to get back to Lisa on that? She wants to know by tomorrow, I think.
I'll tell her we're in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
And I can check first thing on the
Perfect.
library calendar.
shoot me an email. Yeah, I think this is the year to do it, you know? Energy prices going kooky balooky.
Yeah.
We should do a lot of these things, you know?
I had a friend ask me, like, right before the rate change, is there anything I can do about that? I'm like, not anymore.
Too late.
Too late. Put on a sweater.
That's right. Electric blankets. Well, you can't do that.
You want Henry just to give us a couple minutes on the coalition?
Yes, let's
status?
do that.
Yeah, I don't know how much Kevin has told you about what's going on, but I guess just really in brief, the RFP process for services and credit support is shaping up to be a really big success. Kevin's been on that committee and doing a lot of work, and sort of the high-level takeaways are there's currently three firms in contract negotiations. One is retail customer services, that's the utility data, customer billing, that's Calpine, and they are a very well-established national company that does a lot and serves many of these community power agencies in California.
And New England, apparently.
So they don't serve this specific function in New England, but they do.
They're a competitive supplier.
They're a competitive supplier.
That's
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
they work with the utilities, but more on the supply
Right.
side of the corporation.
Right. They're also offering, or putting, part of this discussion is $750,000 in startup funding, part of which could be used to hire a CEO, hopefully, right out the gate in 2023. So the second firm is Ascend Analytics, and they're gonna do all the power procurement and the risk management, participate in the wholesale market on behalf of the coalition and its members. Very deep bench of energy risk management experts, PhDs. They have very sophisticated modeling. They provide this kind of procurement service to utilities and community power agencies all across the country. And they were very impressive.
And they're gonna develop the risk management policy, the cost-sharing agreement, and the reserve policy. They're gonna draft it initially for
Right.
the board, and then ultimately member community review.
Mhm.
So that's part of the scope of their work.
And they're also, there is a $9 million credit facility as part of that discussion where they will finance the initial power procurements to the tune of $9 million. And they're very flexible in terms of financing that initial procurement for the sort of, you got to buy the power, and then 30 to 60 days later, the revenues start to come in. And one of the things that was very attractive is they are very collaborative in terms of, we want to support the coalition to build up your own reserves, collect your own revenues, and wean yourselves off of our credit so you can be more self-sufficient, and that will lower your financing costs. So that's very exciting. And then the third is the River City Bank Financial Services. They will just sort of do the banking to, manage the flow of all of the cash, and sort of, there's a hierarchy where the suppliers, whoever you're buying the energy, the money goes to them first, goes to your service provider second, and accrues into your reserves third. And there's a bank that sort of does that, fairly standard practice. The board has not acted on a recommendation for member services, which is really engaging committees, new cities and towns that want to join up, community engagement, planning, media strategy, that kind of a thing. But the Risk Management Committee did recommend partnering with Clean Energy New Hampshire. They were the one respondent to the RFP that said, we'd like to partner with you to do some grassroots education, advocacy, media work. So that's pending action by the board this coming week. So yeah, all good news on the RFP piece. And I guess it sounds like you've all heard good news. The PUC approved the rules. Commissioner Carlton Simpson gave a very strong endorsement of this as a transformative opportunity for the state, and thanked the coalition explicitly. And the next Friday, the legislative committee that has to approve those is going to take them up. So all good news on the rules front. And then I guess the other maybe update piece is sort of on the member side. There's the 8 to 10 members in this wave one. Lebanon's plan is approved. The remaining ones of those cities and towns are sort of submitting their plans to the PUC this month. And then Portsmouth is sort of in this gang of 12 or so that are either going to town meeting next year, or you in Dover are going to town council. Newmarket is going to, or city council and town council. So there's this growing group of 12, or there's the group of 12 that's moving towards next year. Then there's this list of 35 plus interested communities that are at some stage of, we want to be involved in this coalition, but haven't joined up yet. So again, hopefully Clean Energy New Hampshire will come on board to add capacity to support new cities and towns. I guess that's sort of the quick and dirty update.
How about the CEO search?
It's, it was kind of paused a bit when we didn't have funding side of it. We were gonna wait till after launch, till we had revenue. But once we got funding through Calpine, this $750,000 that we can use for anything that's startup related plus staffing, we've kind of reignited that. And it'll be discussed at our board meeting next week. We're probably gonna hire a search firm, a CEO search firm. And we've developed a request for proposal or request for qualifications, and expect the board will support moving that forward to hire he or she. It'll still take some number of months, I'm sure, but it would be nice to have a CEO on board for the kind of the launch window. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and just a couple of the, River City Bank, it's like, who the heck's River City Bank? They're very active in the community power aggregation market in California, so it's a niche. And they're a community bank, highly regarded in California, and they can set up shop in New Hampshire, so, you know, you might not have seen a River City Bank branch here in Portsmouth, but they're very respected
Be here
firm.
soon.
And the other thing I want to mention too with Clean Energy New Hampshire, that's not really their niche to be providing services, but there's certainly they've been supporting the coalition from the get-go. There's an overlap, and with some funding from the coalition, they can build out some resources through their Circuit Rider program that would support the coalition. But I think part of the discussion with the board, though, is eventually, and I think CE, Clean Energy New Hampshire recognizes this, that eventually that activity would be brought in-house, or at least some or all of it would be brought in-house eventually, but that's not right out of the gate. So there's a real resource capacity issue at this point in time, and Clean Energy New Hampshire, it seems like a really good, strong partner.
And flexible. They've sort of been like,
Flexible,
we
yeah.
want to help you as we can, and we want to also support you to grow and internalize, and we could fade into the background if you could do this on your own without us.
Yeah. So while they're doing their day-to-day, what they do already well, you know, they would be helping to promote the coalition.
Good. Good. And liquidity? You guys have enough funding?
There's a budget that runs through the end of the year, that I think gets us what we need.
And again, I think the money that came through from Calpine was a blessing, because they've really broad use. We have to kind of make a pitch to them what we're gonna use it for, but they've been very clear that if anything to do with implementation, it can be used for, and then any funds that aren't used can then be applied toward their fees post-launch. And that's the other thing, from a liquidity standpoint, all these contracts are at risk to begin with, so all their invoicing for their services are post-launch, so there's no payments to vendors between now and go live. That was a stipulation in all these contracts, that they would invoice us after the fact.
They get paid when we get paid.
Right. It makes them very motivated for us to get paid.
Yeah. I just had one question. That you said the rules, is that go to the legislative subcommittee? That's a PUC subcommittee?
No, it's the Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules, JLCAR is what they call it. And that's a legislative committee that has to approve the PUC rules.
So joint between the House and Senate?
Yeah.
And that's the 15th, it will be the final approval.
So it was gonna be the 15th, so we moved the board meeting from the 15th to the 16th, and then it sounds like JLCAR moved the rules from the 15th to the 16th, and now they're trying to get the executive committee of CPC&H to meet, because they have to move, they're the only ones authorized to move the board meeting, and they are gonna try to move it back to the Thursday, the 15th. It was a mess of emails today.
But they expect that approval is just a formality, because there was an actual review and sign off on the rules 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
That were, the coalition was thrilled with the result.
Yes, and it should be a formality, although we are encouraging members to show up at that meeting, just to voice support and just to really bolster, make sure there's no funny business.
That's next week.
That's next Friday now.
That's great. We just had our legislative committee meeting, and the New Hampshire Municipal Association, in their policy goals and priorities, has explicitly said, support all legislation for community aggregation.
Wow, fantastic.
That was nice to see.
Momentum.
And one thing Ascend is doing too, that's kind of outside of the portfolio analysis, is they're adding resources to project management, this whole thing through Go Live. There's like, you know, lots and lots of moving parts, and the coalition doesn't have the resources to really do that. You know, the board members, and then Henry's doing member services, and then some, and Samuel Golding's doing what he does. So there's just so many moving parts that
He'll be the clerk of the works.
Ascend is gonna be assigned project managers to not only project manage their scope of work, but Calpine, Clean Energy New Hampshire,
Yeah.
River City Bank, et cetera, and put a master plan together that takes us from here through go live. So,
It's exciting. It's a lot that's happening since June.
It's a busy summer.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, nice work, Henry, congratulations, getting there.
Getting there.
We went long tonight, but we didn't have a August meeting, and we got our goals, we got the bookends of our timeline to flesh that out, and we got our templates.
I just emailed you the 2 documents with the edits.
Okay.
You know, if you need help with that or what.
Peter, are we officially adjourned?
Yes. Well, I guess that's counselor's decision.
Oh, looking for a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I seconded it.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all.
Take care, Allison.
Recording stopped.
And don't forget to sign out of Zoom.
No, I won't.
You were still.
sign out of
on
Zoom?
the last
Oh, was
time.
I?
Yeah,
Oh,
last time
bad.
some meeting started.
Bad.
You got, you got all this.
Yeah, I've got it.
Nice work, Henry.
Yeah, thanks.
Stephanie, do you want a copy?
I printed everything out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.